The envelope wasn't white. It was the color of faint winter sunlight, a thin, slightly bluish hue when held up to the window. Jordan Ellis stood amidst a pile of mail scattered on the studio apartment floor. Pizza coupons, a jury summons Jordan was pointedly ignoring, a postcard from Tasha featuring a choir flyer, and this unusual, pale blue envelope that hadn't arrived via the mailbox slot. It was slipped under the door. There was no return address. A single word, Jordan, was inscribed on the front in cramped, left-leaning handwriting. Jordan sniffed it. The scent of paper and eucalyptus filled their nostrils. Their eyes were immediately drawn to the postmark. It wasn't the usual circular stamp of a machine. Instead, it was a rectangular imprint reading Portland, Oregon, and dated October 2, 2045. Cute, Jordan muttered, placing the envelope on the kitchen counter and reaching for the coffee grinder. It was a Tuesday filled with invoices and the familiar dull ache of freelance life. Mood boards were due. Their landlord had sent a friendly reminder text that felt more like a threat, and Theo's studio was persistently pinging them about the need for just one consult. The kettle began to whistle. The envelope patiently waited. Jordan internally debated opening it, but the curiosity proved too strong. They opened it. Inside, nestled on a single page of cream-colored stationery, was a message written in teal ink. The very first sentence stole Jordan's breath. Do not bike across Burnside at 5:12 p.m. today. Use the footbridge on 12th. You will want to ignore this. Don't. G. The kettle clicked off, its task complete. Jordan set the note down gingerly, as if it might explode. The signature wasn't just an initial. It was a distinctive flourish, a particular curve they'd practiced since middle school. It was unmistakably their own handwriting. You're not sleeping enough, Jordan murmured to the empty apartment. This is a prank. They checked the security chain on their door, a small act of self-soothing. They tried to rationalize the note, listing plausible explanations. A friend with an eccentric sense of humor? Avery? No, Jordan didn't know anyone named Avery. Or did they? Or perhaps some unconventional indie marketing campaign. Portland was known for such things. They snapped a photo of the note, intending to send a playful text to Maya. Something along the lines of, got a time travel Valentine today lol. But then hesitated. Maya was working her night shift in the ER. At 4:57 p.m. a light rain began to fall. Jordan, helmet secured, stuffed their laptop into their backpack. Burnside Bridge wasn't far, and the detour to 12th would only add about 15 minutes to their journey. The letter felt like a superstitious omen, a modern-day equivalent of don't step on a crack, or don't call your ex. Jordan's phone buzzed with a call from Theo. They chose to ignore it. The traffic light turned green. They pushed off from the curb. By 5:10 p.m., they reached the corner of Burnside. Traffic flowed in unpredictable waves, the bike lane narrowing to a mere suggestion. Jordan glanced at their watch. 5:11 p.m. They chuckled to themselves, the sound muffled by the falling rain. Fine. Footbridge. They veered left towards 12th. A car honked impatiently. Jordan's rear tire slipped and caught, momentarily destabilizing their ride. At precisely 5:12 p.m., a metallic shriek pierced the air from 2 blocks away. Jordan didn't actually witness the crash. The sound alone, a long drawn-out screech, sent a chill down their spine, a visceral reaction akin to the feeling of watching a ladder fall from a great height. People began running towards Burnside, their cell phones held aloft. Jordan remained frozen, one foot on the curb, the other on the pedal, overtaken by a nauseating mix of relief and a darker, more unsettling emotion. They hadn't crossed Burnside at 5:12 p.m. Someone else had. Sirens filled the evening air. Jordan locked their bike, quickened their pace, and joined the growing crowd at the crosswalk. A cyclist lay on the ground, injured but alive, their leg grotesquely bent at an unnatural angle, their canvas camera bag flung haphazardly across the wet asphalt. The driver, shaken and middle-aged, repeatedly stammered, "She came out of nowhere," despite the clear green arrow indicating otherwise. Jordan's gaze fell upon the camera bag. The strap was woven with teal thread. A paramedic knelt beside the injured cyclist, their movements efficient and practiced. "Ma'am Maya?" They called out to the arriving ER team. Jordan's head snapped up, a jolt of adrenaline coursing through them. It wasn't Maya. A different nurse, already gloved, was attending to the victim. The injured cyclist blinked, attempted to sit up, swore under their breath, and then slumped back down again. A wave of nausea washed over Jordan. The initial relief curdled into a profound sense of guilt. They felt like a thief, a petty criminal who had somehow stolen someone else's fate. The footbridge shimmered in the distance, a harmless and utterly obvious alternative route. A police officer approached the witnesses, requesting statements. Jordan didn't come forward. They walked back to their bike, their legs feeling weak and unsteady, as if the ground itself might give way beneath their feet. The rain intensified. Back home, Jordan showered in excessively hot water and then sat on their bed, the letter resting on their lap. Every few minutes they checked under the door, half expecting another envelope to appear, as if the future, having tested their obedience, might now choose to communicate further. Nothing slipped under the door. The radiator clanked rhythmically. The city outside buzzed with life. Jordan stared at the ceiling until the night softened into the pale light of dawn, finally drifting off into a restless sleep punctuated by fragmented images of teal lines. They awoke to the soft whisper of paper against wood. Another envelope. It was under the door, the same pale blue as the first. The postmark again. 2045. The handwriting was unmistakably Jordan's, impossible to dismiss as coincidence now, given the microscopic details. The capital J with its long elegant tail, the way the lowercase r leaned away, as if distrustful of the world. Inside there were no instructions, only a photograph. Jordan recognized their own artistic style immediately, yet simultaneously knew they hadn't created it. It was a poster, a mock political campaign, bearing a slogan that didn't yet exist. Every corner cares. The design was executed in teal ink on cream-colored stock. A minimalist aesthetic featuring a neighborhood clinic and a line of people huddled under umbrellas along the curb. At the bottom, a set of tiny numbers was printed. 45. Coordinates. Jordan typed the coordinates into their computer. The location. A street in inner southeast Portland. A long concrete wall, a popular spot for posters and wheat paste murals. Jordan downed half a cup of coffee in a single gulp, already mounting their bike before the caffeine had fully settled in their system. The wall was tall, damp, and densely packed with staples and advertisements. At the far end, a patchwork of peeling ads formed a pale rectangle, the precise size of a poster that had recently been removed. The coordinates were exact. The empty space was precise. Jordan crouched down, their fingers exploring the seams of the remaining advertisements. They found a scrap of teal-colored paper tucked into a crevice. No words were visible. "Looking for this?" a voice asked from behind. Jordan turned. The cyclist from Burnside, alive, wearing a knee brace, their camera strap slung across their chest, held up a folded flyer between two fingers. A bandage adorned their eyebrow. Their eyes held a curious mixture of amusement and a resilience that belied their recent injury. "You left your scene," they remarked, a hint of playful reproach in their tone. "Kind of rude." "I," Jordan stammered, momentarily speechless. "Are you okay?" The cyclist shrugged, wincing slightly. "Define okay. Knees are apparently optional now. I'm Avery." The name felt like a jolt of electricity, a sudden unexpected spark. "Jordan." Avery tilted the flyer. "So is this yours? Everyone keeps assuming it is." They unfolded the flyer. Every corner cares. Teal on cream. Jordan's style. Jordan's aesthetic. Jordan's future? "No," Jordan replied far too quickly. "I haven't. That's not. Where'd you get it?" "I was going to ask you that," Avery said. "It was taped to my door this morning." Jordan couldn't suppress a nervous laugh. A short, slightly erratic burst of sound. "Of course it was." Avery's expression softened. "You okay?" "No." Jordan felt like a pane of glass, constantly subjected to gentle but insistent taps. Yeah. Sorry. I saw you last night. The accident. Ah. Avery's mouth subtly shifted, showcasing the characteristic expression of someone who had stared death in the face and emerged victorious. A blend of wry amusement and solemn reflection. Then you saw I was fine. Or fine enough. They tucked the poster into their bag. Coffee? You look like you've met a ghost. Jordan hesitated, the date on the letter branded into the forefront of their mind. They heard their mother's voice, echoing with practical advice. Don't go with strangers unless your spirit says yes. Jordan's spirit, however, tilted towards Avery like a weather vane in a gale. Coffee, Jordan said. They found themselves seated in a cafe that resembled a ship's interior, complete with exposed beams, ropes and plants suspended from macrame slings. Portland's mastery of cozy ambience was in full effect. Rain tapped against the windows like a persistent friend lacking a key. Avery cradled their mug in both hands. So they began. Tell me how you designed a poster you've never designed. Jordan recounted a version of their story, leaving out certain details. I got an anonymous envelope, then the coordinates, then the wall, then you. I'm not trying to be weird. You're doing it by accident, Avery replied, a faint smile playing on their lips. Jordan found themselves mirroring the smile. What about you? Who tapes graphic design to your door at dawn? Someone who knows when I leave to shoot sunrises, Avery responded. Someone who knows my landlord's handwriting well enough to fake the fold. Someone who knows I won't ignore a clean sans serif. Stalker with taste, Jordan quipped. Story of my life, Avery said dryly. But for real, yesterday felt targeted. I never bike Burnside. I always take the footbridge. I don't know why I didn't, and that makes me mad. A knot tightened in Jordan's stomach. I took the footbridge because of the envelope. Avery's eyebrows shot up. Oh? A prophet told you? Jordan took a deep breath. It was from my future self. Silence hung in the air, not heavy or tense, but filled with a palpable sense of curiosity. Avery's eyes held no hint of mockery. And what did future you want? To keep me alive, Jordan admitted, surprised by the raw sincerity in their own voice. But I think I may have inadvertently caused a disaster. Avery took a sip of their coffee. Or you rerouted it and you were meant to meet me. Meant to. Relax, Avery said. Not soulmate stuff. Documentary stuff. I take pictures of things that almost happen. Jordan contemplated this statement, the words settling slowly into their consciousness. Avery's camera sat on the table, looking almost like a living creature. The rain began to subside. A notification pinged on Jordan's phone. They flipped the phone over, not wanting to engage with the alert. Avery didn't miss the grimace. Avery guessed. Boss, Jordan clarified. Of a sort. Wants to own your time? Wants to borrow it and call it exposure, Jordan retorted, the joke feeling stale and worn. Answer if you want, Avery said gently. I'm not fragile. Jordan didn't answer. They traced the rim of their mug with a fingertip. What kind of pictures? Corners, Avery replied, a touch of shyness entering their voice. Where things nearly meet. People who almost see each other. Buildings that almost touch. Hands that almost reach. A complex, pleasant ache settled in Jordan's chest. That's beautiful. Avery seemed to bask in the compliment. Thanks. As they were leaving the cafe, Avery slipped the poster back to Jordan. If it's your future, you should keep it. Jordan carefully folded the paper. As they did so, they noticed a small number in the left margin, so faint it could have easily been mistaken for a stray fiber. 2. The first letter hadn't had a number, or at least Jordan hadn't noticed it. They looked at Avery, observing the way the knee brace caused them to slightly favor one leg. The urge to say, don't cross Burnside at 5:12 p.m. tomorrow or ever, was both powerful and utterly ridiculous. Instead, Jordan said, Can I help you get home? I can hobble, Avery replied. But if you want to be heroic, carry my pride. They stepped out into a sky the color of a deep bruise. Jordan slowed their pace to match Avery's. At the corner, a city bus hissed to a halt. A new message, a single unreadable notification, flashed on Jordan's lock screen and disappeared before they could even touch their phone. Theo's studio occupied the third floor of a brick building, permeated by the comforting aroma of toasted bread. Jordan decided to go there that evening, the letter carefully folded and tucked away in their jacket, because if they didn't, Theo would inevitably send 3 more texts before showing up in person, and Jordan didn't want to face the uncomfortable proximity of the past and the future in the same room. Theo greeted them with the overly enthusiastic embrace of a man who believed everyone should be at least 6 feet tall. "Look what the rain dragged in," he exclaimed, already turning back to his wall of monitors. "I have something insane." Insane. The city bid. The clinic system. We're talking a full campaign from bus wraps to watch ads. Jordan hung up their jacket, keeping the envelope tucked safely in the inside pocket, acting as a protective talisman. "What's the catch?" Theo gestured, spinning a chair around with his toe. "Catch? The catch is that I need you. Your taste, your discipline." He clicked a button, and a presentation appeared across 3 screens. Sleek, sterile, beautiful in a way that sent a jarring ache through Jordan's teeth. Rebrand of a coalition of neighborhood clinics. They want belonging without looking broke. They want trust without looking like 1999. We will give them grace. The presentation's working title, Every Corner Cares. Jordan's skin grew cold. Who wrote that? Me, baby. Theo kissed his fingers and playfully tossed the kiss towards the ceiling. Sometimes the universe gifts you a line. Jordan swallowed hard. Who's funding it? Theo waved a dismissive hand. Coalition money, city grants, a private stakeholder. Don't frown. We'll do it ethically. We're not monsters. Jordan's throat felt constricted, too small for the words struggling to escape. On the presentation's mock-ups, Jordan could almost see their own hand at work, the color palette, the subtle way the corners of the typography interacted with the overall design. The poster from the photograph. The coordinates. Is this a yes face? Theo asked, noticing Jordan's expression. Jordan realized their face betrayed horror, not enthusiasm. They forced a neutral expression. Timeline. Fast. 2 weeks to name and frame, 6 to roll. I'll match your freelance rate and add hazard pay. What hazard? Jordan asked, and Theo laughed because to him, hazard was simply a more exciting way to enjoy extra espresso. Jordan requested a day to consider, and Theo, who detested the word think when it signified delay, agreed, because his enthusiasm for Jordan's work surpassed his impatience. As Jordan left, Theo called out, "Oh, meet me tomorrow at the client's temporary HQ. Old warehouse on SE Ash. 9 m. There's a stakeholder meeting. Wear your serious jacket." Jordan rode home in a light rain that felt almost like a warning. They locked their bike, checked under their door, and then sat down with the envelope on the table, treating it like a distinguished guest. They opened it once more, as if additional words might magically appear. The photograph stared back. Every corner cares, the coordinates, and 2. In the margin. On the back, a second set of numbers, barely visible in microscopic teal ink, had bled through the paper. Jordan almost missed them. The 3 a.m. Jordan texted Maya, sleep having completely abandoned them. "Jay, you up?" Maya, always. Jay, weird question. If someone got a letter from their future self, would you call psych or a priest? Maya, I'd call you an Uber and say hydrate. Jay, helpful. Maya, come by. I'm on break in 15. I'll pretend to chart while you confess. The air smelled of lemon and adrenaline. Maya met Jordan by the vending machines, her hair pulled back, her eyes shining with a distinctive kind of bright, tired energy. "Hi, disaster," she greeted Jordan. "You look haunted." Jordan recounted their experience, omitting certain details, the coordinates and the campaign names, but providing enough information to convey the general narrative. The first letter, Burnside at 512, Avery on the asphalt, the poster that hadn't yet been designed. Maya listened with the same focused attentiveness she applied to her work. Calm, hands-on when necessary, silent when silence was more appropriate. Okay, she said finally. Pretend it's true. Pretend you obeyed a warning that saved you and got someone else hurt. Do you want the letter to stop? I don't know, Jordan admitted, the weight of their uncertainty palpable. If it stops, I have to live with the world as it is. If it continues, I have to live with the world as someone wants it to be. Someone being future you. Apparently. Maya leaned against the vending machine. You're not hallucinating. I see it on you. You are, however, dangerously suggestible when someone writes in teal. Jordan laughed, surprised by how much they needed to laugh. It's a nice teal. Maya's pager buzzed. I have to go stitch up a gentleman who tried to open a can with his soul. Quick. Do you want me to tell you it will be okay? No, Jordan said. I want you to tell me what to do at 9 a.m. Wear your serious jacket, Maya said, her tone utterly deadpan. And don't lie to yourself. It's worse than lying to me. A voice from triage called Maya's name. She squeezed Jordan's hand and hurried away. On their way out, Jordan passed a curtained bay where Avery sat in a paper gown, one leg extended, a nurse attending to their knee. Avery looked up surprised then pleased. You again. Jordan stopped, feeling a sudden wave of awkwardness. Me again. This is not stalking. Happy coincidence, Avery said. They're voting on whether my knee is allowed to bike. Tell it I said yes, Jordan said. I'll tell it a graphic designer said yes, Avery teased. What are you doing here? Visiting a friend, Jordan said. And thinking about corners. Avery's smile reached something deep within Jordan. Something they couldn't quite articulate. I like when you say that. A resident pulled the curtain half closed. Jordan stepped back, their heart feeling both vulnerable and sincere. The envelope heavy in their pocket, like a future desperately trying to become a present. Outside, dawn painted a pale strip across the horizon. Jordan biked towards S.E. Ash, towards the warehouse, towards 9 a.m. The city seemed to yawn and shrug off the lingering remnants of the rain. A grocery truck hissed to a stop at Mr. Lin's corner store. Mr. Lin himself rolled up the gate, as if lifting the weight of the day itself. Jordan's phone buzzed. An unknown number. They let it go to voicemail. A moment later a transcript appeared. Don't be late. No name. No punctuation. The font itself felt threatening, despite its innocuous nature. Jordan pedaled faster. The warehouse on S.E. Ash had been artfully staged to evoke a sense of visionary innovation. Edison bulbs hung from the ceiling, raw plywood formed the walls, and a cluster of succulents stood poised to wither by midday. Jordan arrived at 8:58 a.m., rain still clinging to their hair, and were ushered past an artfully distressed garage door to a long table where Theo vibrated with a palpable energy. Serious jacket, Theo exclaimed, visibly relieved. You're an angel. A woman in a slate-colored suit introduced herself as Marlene Tran, Coalition Liaison. Her smile was meticulously controlled, like a finely tuned zipper. Smooth but with the potential for sudden sharp pain. Two men exchanged handshakes without offering their names. The third, thin, precise in their movements, clicked a pen while staring intently at an iPad, as if attempting to hypnotize it. Jordan took a chair, their inner pocket feeling the warmth of the envelope, a sense of impending danger. The meeting began with the slide Jordan had somehow already seen in a dream. The temporary name Every Corner Cares, displayed in an elegantly simple sans serif font. Theo began his presentation. We're here to build trust that looks like now. He possessed the ability to charm even a thunderstorm. Jordan scribbled notes in their notebook, and felt something beneath their palm. An extra sheet of paper, creamstock teal ink, had been slipped between the pages. No one was close enough to have placed it there. They didn't look up. In the narrowest teal handwriting the message read, 3. Ask who Ashwell Holdings is. Then do not speak for 13 minutes. Ask about the vacant lot at SE 9th and Ash. The word temporary hides a permanent plan. Do not show slide 14. J. Jordan inhaled sharply, then covered the involuntary gasp with a cough. Theo continued his presentation. At a brief pause between slides, Jordan cautiously lifted their head. Quick clarifier. Who is Ashwell Holdings? A sudden involuntary stillness fell over the room. Slate Suit's zipper smile remained firmly in place. A philanthropic partner underwriting the coalition's lease on this space, she replied lightly. Why? Jordan smiled, employing the carefully neutral expression designers cultivate when surrounded by large amounts of money. Spatial brand matters. Just mapping relationships. The thin man's pen ceased its rhythmic clicking. We can send a diagram, he said, his voice possessing the subtle menace of someone who enjoys speaking in elevator shafts. Theo, oblivious to the shift in atmosphere, clicked to the next slide. Jordan's blood ran cold. 1440ths appeared in the corner. The title Roadmap to Redevelopment. 9th and Ash. Jordan leaned forward, casually placing a hand on the table, and with the nonchalant authority of someone who understood the unspoken rules of presentation design said, Let's skip that, redundant with 12. Theo, instinctively trusting Jordan's judgment, moved to slide 15 without hesitation. Vacant lot at SE 9th and Ash, Jordan said, their voice soft and airy, as if commenting on the weather. How temporary is temporary? Slate Suit's smile felt like a freshly sharpened blade being carefully sheathed. Until the coalition's permanent home is ready. And where will that be? Where the community needs it most, she replied, a carefully crafted evasion. Jordan remained silent for the next 13 minutes, observing the subtle shifts in body language. The zipper smile tightening slightly, the pen clicking resuming its Morse code rhythm, the faint flicker of unease on Theo's face. The word redevelopment appeared on slide 22. Treated as a natural phenomenon, rather than the outcome of bulldozers and carefully crafted public relations campaigns. When the meeting concluded, Slate Suit handed Jordan a business card with an email address, so concise it felt almost offensively expensive. We love your eye, she said. Help us make this feel like belonging. On the stairs, Theo grinned broadly. You saved me with that redundant dodge, he said. 14 was still a mess. Jordan responded, maintaining a neutral tone. Their pocket felt like a rapidly beating heart. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving the sky the color of blank paper. Jordan retrieved the letter from their notebook and reread the final line, which had initially seemed like a mere stylistic flourish, but now felt like a plea. Mr. Lynn's corner store had weathered more temporary development plans than any politician's career. Jordan pushed the bell, its chime sounding like a burst of citrusy energy, and stepped inside, enveloped by the comforting aroma of ginger, coffee, and the reassuring glow of fluorescent lights that pretended the world was perfectly flat and orderly. Designer, Mr. Lynn boomed, as if he'd been waiting all morning to address Jordan by that title. He had a habit of this, choosing evocative nicknames for his regular customers, names that often reflected their professions or some other defining characteristic. You look like newspaper headline. Jordan smiled, weary from the constant scrutiny. Mr. Lynn, did anyone ever ask about the lot on 9th and Ash? Always asking. Never buying. Like dating, he replied, making change for a woman with a toddler. He leaned against the counter. Before pandemic, after pandemic. Men in shoes too clean. He tapped his ledger, a well-worn tome he kept near the register. They buy gift cards, many gift cards. For consultants who do not want money seen. They call from a number that changes every 2 weeks. A prickling sensation began on Jordan's scalp. What name? Mr. Lynn lifted a pair of reading glasses that were actually magnifying goggles and carefully turned the pages of his hand-lettered ledger. He traced a finger along a specific entry. Ashwell Holdings. 6 months ago. By and by. Always same person picking up. A woman who smiles like she is allergic. Jordan pictured Slate Suit, her carefully controlled, almost robotic smile. Allergic to what? Poverty, sunlight, genuine questions? May I take a photo? Jordan asked, acutely aware of how the situation might appear to an outsider, how their actions could easily be misinterpreted. Mr. Lynn considered the request. For you, designer, I will do better. He walked to the back of the store and returned with a copybook older than Jordan, its spine carefully reinforced with tape. He carefully tore out a single page, extracting names, dates, the numbers of the gift cards, and the notation Ashwell Holdings written in Mr. Lynn's impossibly neat all caps. "You will bring me back this history," he said. "But for today you carry it." Jordan's throat constricted, mirroring the feeling they'd experienced in the car with Maya. A mixture of intense gratitude and overwhelming emotion. "Thank you. You pay me with story later," Mr. Lynn said, wagging a finger playfully. "You think I don't know your face gets noisy when you lie? Psh." Jordan laughed, dropped a $20 bill into the tip jar, a fishbowl-sized vessel, and tucked the ledger page into the same pocket as the letter. Teal ink met pencil gray. The past and the future crinkled together, like two polite strangers sharing an uncomfortable bus ride. As Jordan reached the door, Mr. Lynn called out, "Designer, one more thing." He pointed to a small origami crane resting near the register. "A girl left this morning. Said it was for you. But I think she just didn't want to carry her sadness." He placed the crane on the counter between them. The paper was the color of faint winter light, folded with meticulous care. Jordan picked up the crane. It smelled faintly of eucalyptus. If you have evidence and a profound sense of dread, you can always seek help from the police. But you also bring your own doubts and a folder of materials that make you appear perpetually sleep-deprived and overwhelmed by countless decisions. Jordan sat across from Detective Serena Holt in a room that clearly reflected a limited budget, beige walls, and a single, surprisingly vibrant plant. "So," Holt began, pen poised, her expression more tired than skeptical. "Anonymous letters. From a future version of me," Jordan said, bracing themselves for the inevitable skeptical reaction. Holt didn't flinch. "Predictive content," she observed neutrally. "Accurate so far? Enough to make me obey." Jordan slid the teal letters across the desk, along with the photograph of the poster, Mr. Lynn's ledger page, and the origami crane. The table resembled a conspiracy theorist's haphazard collection of evidence, except everything was meticulously organized. Holt read silently, her expression suggesting a profound attentiveness. "You understand how this will look if you need a restraining order," she said finally. "Like you're trying to protect yourself from." "I'm not dangerous," Jordan said, the words a little too quick, a little too defensive. Holt's expression softened, the stern lines around their mouth relaxing. "If you were, you wouldn't be here seeking my help. But I've worked stalking cases where the stalker created false witnesses, writing as other people to build a deceptive narrative. Sometimes it was self-preservation. Sometimes it was a rehearsal for something far more sinister." A chill shot through Jordan's stomach. The implication hung heavy in the air, a cold dread settling in. "I'm not doing that," Jordan insisted, their voice tight with a desperate need for reassurance. Holt nodded slowly, considering. "Good. Don't. Document everything. Photograph how the letters arrive, the time of arrival, the packaging. Keep a detailed log." Holt slid a notepad across the desk. A pre-printed grid already marked its surface. Time, date, exact wording, who else was present, any nearby security cameras. All of it. Jordan blinked, surprised. The weight of the accusation had been so profound, so utterly unsettling. "You believe me?" they asked, the question barely a whisper. "I believe in evidence," Holt stated, their gaze firm. "And I believe in Mr. Lynn. Half my informants owe him for a warm meal or a kind gesture, so he's a valuable connection. He often provides crucial information." Holt glanced at the ledger page. "Ashwell Holdings. We've encountered that name in various guises, connected to several shady dealings." A desperate plea escaped Jordan's lips, a vulnerability they hadn't felt since their high school days, when they desperately pleaded for help with their rent. "Can you do something?" The soft pleading in their voice startled even them. "Maybe," Holt replied, a non-committal response that offered a sliver of hope. "If you can find me something with a digital trail. An invoice, a bank transfer, a camera with illicit access. Anything concrete to show wrongdoing." Jordan looked at the origami crane. A small piece of evidence in itself. A paper bird carrying a hidden message. What if I can find the last one? They asked, a hint of determination creeping into their tone. Holt raised a skeptical eyebrow. I didn't hear that. If two concerned citizens happen to notice something in public and send me an anonymous tip, that's perfectly acceptable. But don't engage in any unauthorized surveillance or trespass. I don't want to see you in court. Understood, Jordan lied, to themselves more than to Holt. Then remembering Maya's advice, they added, understoodish. A faint smile played on Holt's lips. Their eyes crinkled at the corners. I like you. That makes me nervous. People I like tend to do brave but sometimes foolish things. Don't do brave, dumb things alone. I won't, Jordan promised, their mind already racing, thinking of Avery. Good, Holt said, writing their cell number on the back of their business card and handing it over. If the letters escalate, if they become more threatening, mentioning harm to you or anyone else, call me immediately. And even if they stop, let me know. Silence isn't always a sign of peace. Jordan slipped the card into their pocket, along with the letter, the ledger page, and the crane. The future, the past, the law, and a paper bird. Their pocket felt crowded, heavy with the weight of it all. Back at the apartment, Jordan placed the crane on the table, studying it intently, the way people scrutinize a locked phone screen, hesitant to reveal its secrets. The folds were crisp, the paper wings gracefully formed. They gently pinched the tail, carefully pulling it, and the bird unfolded with a soft sigh, revealing a flat map drawn in teal ink. An intersection was sketched, along with several cameras, tiny arrows indicating their field of vision. A box labeled storage/Southeast 9th Alley was clearly marked. In the margin, the number and a time, 2110. Beneath, in a distinctive left-leaning script, bring someone who can see what you can't. Jordan immediately thought of Avery's keen observational skills. They sent a text. Jay, you busy at 9 tonight? Avery. My knee is offended, but I am available. Jay, I need a second pair of eyes on something not illegal. Avery, you're a terrible liar. Address? Jordan hesitated, then sent a pin near the alley behind SE 9th, adding, if it feels wrong, we leave. Avery, copy that. I am bringing moral support. Jay, is that code for a camera? Avery. Obviously. At 2106, they met near the alley. The city hummed with its post-dinner, pre-trouble rhythm. Avery wore a black beanie and a jacket that read press on the inside. A subtle deterrent against both overly zealous security guards and potential legal trouble. Their knee brace was subtly visible beneath their jeans. A silent apology for its continued presence. This is either a date or a very niche protest, Avery quipped, their voice light and teasing. Why not both? Jordan replied, then immediately cringed at their own clumsy attempt at humor. Sorry. Avery grinned. Don't be. They moved along the brick walls, the alley slick with the residue of countless spills and years of neglect. The cameras sketched on the map were real small domes hidden under eaves, a tiny pinhole in a light fixture, and the subtle bulge of a device disguised as a conduit. Even the anticipation of surveillance made Jordan feel watched. The box labeled storage was a metal door with a brushed steel number plate and a keypad, gleaming with the oily shine of frequent use. Jordan didn't touch it. They looked up instead. A rusty fire escape ladder clung precariously to the brick wall. The crane map showed a line from a rooftop corner to the door, wire run scrawled in teal ink. Avery followed the line with their camera lens. Whoever drew this knows the installation intimately, they murmured, their tone serious. This isn't amateur work. Future me has hobbies I hate, Jordan muttered, a wry acceptance in their voice. At the corner, a junction box sat like a forgotten tin heart. Avery crouched, wincing slightly at their knee, and held the camera towards a seam. Inside, if one knew where to look, was a tangle of cheap wiring. A mini DVR slot and a micro SD card, seemingly inviting them to reveal its secrets. Avery looked up, a mischievous glint in their eye. You didn't hear this from me, they said. But if a journalist were hypothetically present, They could hypothetically remove a piece of public-facing storage to hypothetically examine it, and then hypothetically return it before anyone noticed. Jordan's mouth went dry. Hypothetically. Avery carefully slid out the card, replacing it with an identical one from their pocket, then delicately, almost invisibly, taped the seam shut. The original card was placed into a small anti-static sleeve. Footsteps echoed from the mouth of the alley. The cone of a flashlight swept across the wall. Avery grabbed Jordan's sleeve and pulled them into the darker shadow of a dumpster. It sent a pungent mix of decay and overripe oranges. A security guard casually scanned the area with their flashlight beam, whistling a tune from a nearby radio. He yawned, spat on the ground, and moved on. Avery exhaled, the tension visibly leaving their body. "You are the worst first date. We'll rank ourselves later," Jordan whispered, trying to inject some levity into the tense situation. They didn't leave until the security guard had completed another circuit of the alley. As they stepped onto the well-lit street, Jordan's phone buzzed. An unknown number. A voicemail transcription appeared. "Do not go home yet. Turn right. Walk." No punctuation. Jordan didn't show Avery the message. They simply turned right, following the cryptic instructions. "What's up?" Avery asked, sensing the shift in Jordan's demeanor. "Corners," Jordan replied, which wasn't entirely a lie. They ended up at a late-night copy shop, a place that had witnessed countless scenes and perhaps a few romances bloom under the harsh glow of fluorescent lights. Avery knew the owner. It seemed everyone was Avery's friend. Their ability to remember names almost miraculous. "Can we borrow the back computer?" Avery asked, their tone familiar and confident. "I owe you 3 prints and 2 favors." The friend waved them through without hesitation. In a small room redolent with the scent of dust and ink, Avery inserted the microSD card into a reader. The screen filled with a grid of squares, timestamps in pale blue, each representing a camera's view. The quality was far too good for a cheap installation. Someone had invested heavily in surveillance capabilities. Avery clicked to yesterday, 5:12 p.m. Burnside. Jordan flinched, recognizing the location. Another angle, SE 9th and Ash. A wider street view showing a man in a slate suit laughing with a woman whose smile. Jordan leaned closer, recognizing the woman. Slate suit. Marlene. They watched her hand a folder to the thin, deliberate man, who seemed shorter without the imposing barrier of his iPad. He gave her a sealed envelope in return. The camera's autofocus shifted between them, almost like a third participant in the exchange. The timestamp was an hour after Jordan's meeting with Theo. Other squares displayed a corridor in the warehouse, a storage hallway, and the alley where the DVR was located. In that last square, from earlier that evening, 2 figures materialized. A person in a beanie, and someone with a nervous hand on their sleeve. "Delete," Avery whispered reflexively, then froze, realizing the implications. "But we can't." "No," Jordan agreed. "We need to show Holt exactly this." They clicked further back in the footage. Jordan's building lobby appeared, viewed from across the street. Jordan swallowed, a wave of nausea washing over them. Another angle, Mr. Lynn's awning. His shop bell a bright blur as it was rung. Jordan felt a profound sense of violation, the sheer competence of the surveillance chilling them to the bone. The precision with which they had been observed, their patience and their panic meticulously documented. Avery printed stills with clear date stamps. Marlene at the exchange, the thin man's face illuminated by his screen, the camera bank list device. Ashwell 9XA visible in the corner of a debug overlay someone had accidentally left in the footage. In the last still, Jordan saw their own face laughing at something Avery had said in the alley, softened by the darkness. They looked happy. Caught in the midst of surveillance, pressed by fear, Jordan had found a brief moment of genuine joy. Avery saw it too. Their voice softened. "We're going to unravel this," they said, their tone low and determined. "And then you're going to sleep more than 3 hours." Jordan nodded, their response a little too quick, a little too eager. Avery tucked the microSD card into a hidden pocket behind their camera's iCup. "Insurance," they explained. And evidence. As they left, the copy shop friend squinted at them. You look like you just downloaded a ghost. Something like that, Avery replied, their voice calm but carrying a weight of unspoken knowledge. They walked to the corner. The voicemail's command not to go home yet had become ingrained in Jordan's muscle memory. They continued walking until their fear found a place to rest, somewhere other than their throat. When they finally parted ways, Avery touched Jordan's sleeve with a fingertip. Text when you're safe, they said. Jordan did. Only when the message showed as delivered did they unlock their apartment door. On the floor they found nothing and everything. No envelope, just the unsettling knowledge that the future had already found them. They finally slept, like someone who knew a wolf was at their door, but who had also hired a second wolf for protection. The next letter arrived at 6:02 a.m., slipped under the door like a secret. Jordan crouched on the cold floorboards, opening it with the extreme caution of someone defusing a small bomb. You must fail the pitch today. Ask about public covenants on clinic land. Ask who signs displacement notices. Say, I can't ethically present this. Theo will fire you. Let him. Avery disappears if you don't. Jordan put the page down, stood, walked, sat, stood again. Each movement felt like a sentence they could choose not to utter. They weighed their options. One path leading to a job but no Avery. The other to Avery, but a career as fragile as paper in the rain. They called Maya. Which would you rather regret? Maya asked, letting Jordan unburden themselves without attempting to correct their grammar. Losing a job or losing a person? I've lost both, Jordan admitted. One of them haunts me longer. Maya hummed thoughtfully. Then the question is, do you want to be haunted by something you chose or something you let happen? At 9 a.m., the warehouse's Edison bulbs hummed like whispered gossip. The client table was set again, this time with more suits and the unmistakable scent of money with a destination. Theo bounced on the balls of his feet, whispering, We're on a knife's edge. Give me your calm face. Jordan summoned their calm face. Underneath, everything shook. The presentation went smoothly until Jordan interrupted themselves, something that always startled Theo, as Jordan rarely interrupted unless absolutely necessary. Before we discuss the specifics of the plan, Jordan said, 2 questions. What public covenants protect the clinic parcels? And who signs displacement notices when redevelopment begins? The questions hung in the air, as sharp and pointed as a well-aimed accusation. It was like questioning the bride's intentions at a wedding sponsored by the groom's family. The man in the slate suit's mouth snapped shut. The thin man's pen froze mid-stroke. Theo hissed softly, Jordan. A warning barely audible. No, it's good, the man in the slate suit said, his voice strained and tight. We are sensitive to community concerns. Great, Jordan replied, their voice steady despite the turmoil within. Then we shouldn't brand a process that hides harm beneath a veneer of aesthetics. I can't ethically present this deck. Silence descended, heavy and suffocating. The bulbs hummed louder, the silence punctuated by the buzz of a silenced phone. Theo's face paled, then flushed crimson. Can we have a moment? The man in the slate suit asked, already rising to his feet. The suits left, their expensive cologne lingering in the air like an unwelcome punctuation mark. Theo turned on Jordan. What are you doing? He demanded, his voice sharp with anger and disbelief. Stopping us from creating a beautiful lie, Jordan said, their voice shaking but firm, anchored by the instruction on the page. Let him. Do you have proof of harm? Theo demanded. Because otherwise you've just destroyed our reputation because you don't like the smell of money. I have enough to slow us down, Jordan countered, their voice steady. Enough for due diligence that isn't just for show. Theo inhaled sharply, like a swimmer preparing to dive beneath the surface. Get out, he said, his voice quiet, deadly calm. We're done. Jordan nodded, feeling the severance like a wet rope being pulled from their hands. As they turned to leave, Theo added, not unkindly, If you're right, I'll look like a fool. If you're wrong, you've just burned your bridge to future work. Jordan walked out into the harsh sunlight, which felt like a personal insult. In their pocket, the letter warmed like a living thing or like guilt. They didn't cry until they reached Mr. Lin's awning, and even then, only a little upright, like someone choosing to nourish a crop of resilience. Their phone buzzed before their tears had dried. Avery, meet me at the Fremont Bridge under. Now. Then a second message. Please hurry. Jordan ran. Theo's firing spread faster than Jordan anticipated. By noon, a polite but firm email landed in their inbox. We are terminating your contract effective immediately. Do not attend tomorrow's debrief. The sting wasn't just financial. It was the sudden erasure of identity. Jordan wasn't the calm one at Theo's studio anymore. They were just a freelancer with rent due. By evening, Avery's text slowed, then stopped. Jordan sent 3 messages. You okay? Need food? At least send a thumbs up. Nothing. At midnight, Jordan biked past Avery's street. The window that had glowed with yellow lamplight was dark. The mailbox was empty. The door locked. On the step, a folded page, creamstock teal ink. Not under Jordan's door, this time at Avery's. The handwriting wasn't Jordan's. It wasn't anyone's they recognized. But it was signed the same, J. The next morning, Jordan knocked until their knuckles bruised. No Avery. They buzzed the downstairs neighbor, who peered out suspiciously. The photographer? Moved out last night. Whole place cleared by dawn. That's impossible, Jordan said, their heart leaping into their throat. They had a busted knee. The neighbor shrugged. Somebody carried boxes. Looked professional. Not friends, not family. Jordan pushed past their initial shock and convinced the landlord to grant access. The apartment was spotless, sanitized, closet empty, shelves bare. Even the refrigerator smelled unused. Only a faint rectangle on the wall marked where a photograph had once hung. Avery's world had been erased, like chalk in the rain. On the counter, taped with surgical precision, was a note. Teal ink. Avery was removed because you hesitated. Obey faster. Interfere sharper. Tomorrow at 11:22 a.m. You'll have one last chance to unmake this erasure. If you fail again, I stop writing. J. Jordan stood in the silence of a life unmade and considered, for the first time, what it would feel like to burn a letter instead of reading it. But when dawn arrived, there was nothing under Jordan's door. No teal, no eucalyptus. Just absence. The silence stretched through the morning, then noon, then dusk. Every creak of the radiator made Jordan jump. Every shadow under the door looked like paper. Nothing came. They walked the city like a penitent. Fremont Bridge. The wall of coordinates. They are hoping Avery had limped back in. Nothing. Maya hugged them once, wordless, and shoved a granola bar in their pocket like an oath. By midnight, Jordan realized. Silence was a letter too. Silence said, "You failed, you are cut off, live with it." Jordan sat at their desk and wrote to themselves in teal marker stolen from Theo's studio. If you don't send letters, I will. They left it on the floor under their own door. It didn't move. They laughed until it sounded like crying. 2 nights later, the phone rang once. Just once. Jordan answered anyway. No voice. Just the hiss of a line. Then clear, warm, too intimate. A nickname only their mother used. Jordy. Jordan froze. Mom. The line clicked dead. Their phone log showed a number with too many digits, starting with +999. When they tried to call back, the network stuttered. Invalid destination. The next morning, a postcard waited under the door. Not an envelope. A postcard of Oakland's Lake Merritt, the skyline soft. On the back, teal ink. Remember the choir. Remember the bridge. J. Jordan booked the cheapest ticket south that afternoon. Tasha Ellis welcomed her child with a long hug and a longer silence. She was shorter than Jordan remembered and stronger than memory had admitted. You look thin, she said, which was love, and made gumbo, which was love, louder. That night, Jordan rummaged through a box of old postcards in Tasha's attic. Shoeboxes of pen pal relics and choir invites. One postcard from 1999 froze them. Lake Merritt, the same image as the letter, except written in a child's hand. Dear future me. Don't forget to be kind. From Jordan, age 8. Jordan carried it downstairs, trembling. Did I send myself postcards? Tasha wiped her hands, read, and laughed softly. You were dramatic. You mailed this to yourself after choir tour, remember? Said you didn't want grown-up you to forget who you were. Jordan stared. Their own handwriting, loopier but familiar. Their own future warnings seated in the past. The line between childlike hope and adult teal blurred until it ached. Whoever is writing now, Tasha said. You started it long ago. Don't blame a stranger. That night Jordan dreamt of bridges, Burnside, Fremont, Lake Merritt, stretching into each other like veins. At the center Avery, camera in hand, waiting. The next envelope came at dawn, as if the silence had been only a test. Jordan opened it with shaking hands. You can save the clinic and your career, but only if you invent a third way. Redesign the pitch so it makes displacement impossible. You must trap Ashwell Holdings with their own numbers. Do this and Avery returns. Do not, and your mother's surgery never happens. The cost of futures is always personal. J attached, a mock-up. Jordan's design style again, but twisted. Client KPIs rearranged to show that community permanence boosted long-term profit. A Trojan horse in teal. Jordan could make this real. Theo might hate it. Ashwell would definitely hate it. But if it worked. Jordan closed their eyes. The bridge, the postcard, Avery's absence. They all braided together. Maybe there wasn't right or wrong. Maybe there was only whether you could stand the echo of your own choice. Jordan stormed Theo's studio uninvited, clutching mock-ups that felt like contraband. Theo looked up from 3 monitors and sighed like someone bracing for an earthquake. I told you. Shut up, Jordan said, the interruption shocking them both. They laid out the designs. A campaign that used Ashwell's own KPIs to prove retention and profit only rose when clinics stayed rooted. Theo leaned in despite himself. His eyes narrowed. You turned their metrics into a noose. A mirror, Jordan corrected. If they reject this, it proves their intent. If they accept, the clinics live. Theo's jaw flexed. You want me blacklisted? I want you right, Jordan said. You said you weren't a monster. Prove it. Silence tense. Finally Theo whispered. You're still fired. But I'll run this. Jordan almost smiled. That was enough. The next morning, a letter slid under the door wet with dew. Fremont Bridge. East Pillar. 1 hour window. 20 to 2100 hours. Avery is there. If you're late, the water keeps them. J. Jordan's heart hammered. They texted Maya. Need backup. Tonight. No questions. Maya fine. But if I end up in cuffs, you're doing my charting for a week. At 1950, rain swept sideways. Jordan and Maya crouched under the Fremont Bridge's massive shadow. The air smelled like rust and river. A faint glow came from beneath the east pillar. They found Avery bound to a chair. Duct tape across their mouth. A camera pointed at them like an execution witness. The moment Jordan rushed forward, floodlights blasted on. From the shadows, the thin man with the clicking pen, now holding it like a weapon. Slate Suit stepped beside him, smile tight. You were warned, she said. You could have made this clean. Maya swore, her voice tight with anger. Jordan's pulse thudded in their ears. Slate Suit nodded toward Avery. They wander too close, they disappear. That's the rule. You don't get to keep both conscience and company. Jordan wanted to lunge, but Holt's voice echoed in their memory. Don't do brave, dumb things alone. Still they stepped forward anyway. A shadow detached from the floodlight's edge. Detective Holt, badge glinting, gun drawn. Drop the prop, she ordered the thin man. Slate Suit hissed. You don't know who funds you, detective. Don't care, Holt said. But I do know extortion and kidnapping when I smell them. A siren wailed overhead. The kind that means warrants, not warnings. Uniforms stormed the embankment. Slate Suit's tightly controlled smile finally broke. Jordan tore the tape from Avery's mouth. Avery coughed, eyes blazing. Took you long enough. Relief broke something open in Jordan. Never again, they whispered. Later, in Holt's unmarked car, Jordan stared at the envelope that had led them here. Avery's head rested against the window, exhausted but alive. Maya's hand rested firm on Jordan's shoulder. Jordan whispered, "Why me? Why letters?" A voice answered, "Not in the car but in their memory in teal ink. Because once I chose wrong. I built the campaign. The clinic fell. Avery died. Mom's surgery fund came, but at a cost I couldn't bury. So I wrote to you hoping you'd be braver than I was." Jordan closed their eyes. Future Jordan wasn't a stranger. It was the echo of a coward made into a teacher. That night another letter arrived. Final. Brutal. "You saved Avery. Good. Now the price. Your mother's surgery fund never materializes. Futures aren't free. Choose. Send me back into silence or keep me talking and watch her decline. J." Jordan sat on the floor, shaking. Tasha's laugh. Avery's bruised wrists. Maya's tired hands. Theo's reluctant gamble. Every choice braided into a knot they could never untie. They whispered to the paper. "What kind of person am I supposed to become?" No answer came. Just the sound of the radiator clanking, like a clock marking time they no longer owned. Jordan didn't sleep. They spread sketches across their floor. Posters, charts, slogans twisted into traps. If the future demanded sacrifice, Jordan would cheat the rules. They coded a digital drop hidden in a mural file. Once activated, every camera feed, every ledger entry, every corrupt transfer tied to Ashwell would publish live across social feeds. Not a leak, an explosion. At dawn, they taped the file to the wall with one word above it. Release. If the letters stopped, it would trigger anyway. If the letters continued, it would still burn the rot open. They texted Holt one line. "You'll need warrants today. Big ones." The letter arrived at noon. Burnside. 5:12 p.m. One last time. Intervene differently. G. The loop had come full circle. Jordan biked hard. Avery hobbling fast beside them. At 5:11, traffic thickened just like the first day. A cyclist wove toward danger. Different rider, same fate. Jordan flung their bike sideways into the lane. A barricade of steel and skin. Horns screamed. Tires shrieked. The rider toppled safely into Jordan's arms instead of a windshield. Pain flared, but no metal screamed this time. The world held its breath. That night, Holt called. "Your mural bomb worked. Ashwell's servers are toast. Judges signed. We've got half their board in cuffs already." Theo voice ragged on voicemail. "They're calling us whistleblowers. I don't know if I'm ruined or reborn. Thanks or screw you, I can't tell which." Mr. Lin pressed gum into Jordan's hand like communion. Maya stitched their bike bruise with too much sympathy. Avery photographed it, light on Jordan's bent shoulder, whispering, "That's the corner where you chose to exist." An envelope, thicker than before, waited under the door. 11. "This is the last you'll hear from me. You've rewritten what I couldn't. The rest is yours. J." Inside was an origami crane folded from a blank page. No maps. No numbers. Just possibility. Jordan set it on the windowsill. For once the paper didn't feel like fate. Felt like goodbye. Fall came fast. Theo's studio limped but didn't die. Holt's name hit the papers with anti-corruption probe. Tasha's surgery fund didn't appear. But the clinic Avery helped save ran a trial program that covered her procedure anyway. Jordan spent evenings at the emergency room shifts with Maya, mornings spent admiring murals with Avery, and afternoons dedicated to freelance gigs, smaller paychecks, but jobs that didn't leave them feeling morally compromised. For the first time, the future wasn't a looming threat or an inescapable obligation. It was a canvas upon which they could create their own masterpiece. Weeks passed, and then a final postcard slipped beneath their door. No familiar script. No trace of their signature teal. Only a singlet in the center. A flawlessly rendered, perfect teal, reminiscent of the sky just before a summer shower. Jordan held it, then carefully affixed it above their workspace. It wasn't a cautionary message. It wasn't an intimidation tactic. It served simply as a gentle reminder. The future remained unwritten, theirs to shape as they saw fit. And outside, beneath Portland's dusky twilight sky, the city throbbed with life. Bridges arched across the Willamette River like arteries, carrying them and their aspirations towards a brighter tomorrow.